Welcome back, Breakaway Wealth. I'm your host, Jim Oliver, and with me today is Joe Nicolosi. Joe, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Grateful to be here.
Absolutely. And Joe's become a client and friend at Create Tailwind, and we wanted him to come on and share a little bit about what he's doing and how he's broken away from the herd and it continues to break away. So Joe, give us a little background, give an audience a little background, introduce us to you, and then a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So I like to tell people, my journey started about 5 years ago. My real journey, I'm from upstate New York, packed up my bags, went across country to Los Angeles on a prayer. I just knew there was something else out there for me. Rochester is kind of small town. At the time I was doing independent acting. So I figured, I'm going to go to LA, give me about 6 months, I'm going to make it. I got to LA and had a hard time, finding my footing. So, it got to the point where I needed to pivot somehow. And I'm like, do I really want this? And when I got real with myself, I'm like, no, I don't. I got to get out of here, and didn't want to go back to New York. So came to Arizona, started working some odd jobs when I got here. And then I met a guy in the funding space, and I was on a business networking app, and he's like, yeah, come over to the house. We got a whiteboard presentation. I obviously was trying to recruit sales reps at the time. So I was open-minded to it, and I went over. They walked me through the business model, and here we are, 4 years later. Last 3 years I've been doing it on my own, but yeah, I'm a business funding consultant now.
That's awesome. So Rochester, it's funny, Joe, as you know, I live in Southwest Florida, and in my neighborhood, there was one guy, Jim Odorsic, who was from Rochester. He started recruiting all these people from Rochester to come down here and have a place for the winter. So we have a ton of people from Rochester, all Buffalo Bills fans. Now, this is kind of hard for me as a Raiders fan, but I've embraced the Bills. Okay. The early 90s, that were a long time ago. We're going to forget all about those AFC championship games. And I really like Josh Allen. So
thankfully I was too young to remember at the time.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. But I have a ton of friends from Rochester. In fact, this summer, and like last summer, we go to Lake Keuka to see, or Keuka Lake. I'm going to get corrected there. Keuka Lake to spend a week. And our granddaughter Riley does a sailing camp up there. And I'll tell you what, upstate New York and I've only been there in the summer, is beautiful, right?
It is in the summer.
Yeah. It's like South Dakota. South Dakota is one of the best places to live for about 3 or 4 months out of the year. Yeah. So my friends up there are going to smack me for that, because that might be an exaggeration. But so business funding. Tell me about that. Tell me, what are you doing? What's kind of your ideal person to help?
Yeah. So when it comes to business funding, well, interesting enough. So I want to tell you, like, before I started, me and my dad were looking, he found an ad in a Golf Digest magazine for a golf business for sale, like a golf glove embroidered business.
Yeah.
And, he's like, what do you think, man? What do you think about acquiring this? At the time, I had no money, no credit. He didn't want to dip in his retirement, and then by happenstance, I met that guy. But like, I tried to get funding first for that business, and I didn't know what was available at the time. Then I started learning about the business, learning about what funding products are actually available for business owners, and come to find out, it was different than what I thought. So like, if you're starting a business, there's not many options. I mean, from a traditional banking standpoint, you got your credit cards, your installment loans, but other than that, I mean, it's tough to get something off the ground, especially if you don't have your credit in place. At least, that 720 mark from a banking standpoint, as far as credit score, that's like the sweet spot. And anyways, I started, getting in there. And then, I work with a lot of construction and transportation companies, working capital, like short-term, intermediate-term funding. And so it's like, we leverage their receivables. We'll look at their bank statements. Typically, we can generate an offer like between 8 and 12% of their annual revenue. Sometimes it's funding the same day, so you don't have to wait. That's the advantage. It's fast, super fast, sometimes same day, most of the time within 24 hours.
And is the money, is that kind of like a hedge fund or PE or?
Yeah, these are like Regulation D funds,
Yeah,
private investor pools.
Yep.
It's obviously if it's cheap money, it's not going to be fast, but if it's fast, it's not going to be cheap. So obviously there's that. It's not cheap money, but if you can use that money, flip the money and turn a profit, it's always worth it.
Well, I mean, to your point, there's a guy down here in Florida. He owns about 500 million worth of real estate. And what he does is he has a single source for the down payment on all of these properties that he's buying. And his sweet spot's still in that $20-25 million range, but he gets the down payment from a single source, kind of like what you're talking about, pays 12 to 15%, doesn't care, because he knows he's only going to have that loan, number one, for maybe 8 months, a year at the most. He's going to do rehab. He's going to refinance. He's going to do, he's got a system, right? The key is access to the money, quick access to the money. And as long as you can justify it on the other end, meaning you're not paying more than you're going to make, then it's great. But, when I loan money to my companies, I loan money anywhere from, normally it's 20%. And if I do it lower than 20%, then I want a piece of the profit for whatever we're funding. For instance, if we're funding a computer, and we're going to fulfill some computers for a call center in South America, we got to go buy the computers, right? Well, that's what they need the money for. But if we're gonna put in 500, we're gonna make 800. Then then pay me 10% plus 10 or 15% of the profit, right?
Yeah.
On top
most of our products, Jim, like they're between 6 and 12 months, on average.
Yeah.
And they're called factor rates because it's not technically a loan; it's an advance against your future receivables.
Ah, nice.
So now you're looking at factor rates between 125 and 150. If you factor in the money you're borrowing. 150 is basically 50% on the money you're borrowing.
Right.
So it's not considered a loan though; it's an advance, giving you your receivables ahead of time.
So, I had a big eye doctor that did that. He would borrow against his receivables that he knew he had coming in, and he would show. And by the way, this guy used that additional monies to expand from one location to, I think, 14. So again, when you do the math, I think he's okay paying whatever interest rate he's got to pay, right?
Yeah, and most of my clients are truckers, so we got a lot of owner operators right now.
Yeah,
traditional banks don't want to deal with truckers.
Yeah,
you go to Wells Fargo, Chase. They're not going to even want to touch you, especially if you're under 2 years in business. It's considered a risky industry, so we're able to do that. My average client's between $30,000 and $40,000 cash advance.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome. Well, and what it makes people realize is, Nelson Nash always said it's not about the rate when you take out a loan. And you're right, it's not about the rate. It's what are you going to do with that money, and what can you make on the money, right? Yeah. So, and it's not just in those 12 months or that short period of time for the loan. It's that truck or whatever they're buying, or even if they're buying a trailer, or maybe they're buying car. I don't know what they're buying from you, but that if they were buying a truck, that truck might last them how many years, right?
Most of the time they use the money for a down payment on the truck, or they got to fix their truck to get back on the road and make more money, or they want to hire a driver, standard. But if you're borrowing money and making money, it costs you nothing.
That's right. In fact, you don't pay that interest. The customer does, right? Whoever you're hauling a load for, they pay for it, not you.
And Nelson talks about that in his books too. Like the consumer pays for it.
Yeah. See, that's the thing that you got to think about when people think about the rate, then they're focusing on the wrong thing. Right. Is it's really not about the rate, because short-term money that quick costs money. Yeah. But if I need it because I can use it, because I can benefit from it, then man, it's gold, right?
Yeah. And then, sometimes, SBA takes, 45 to 60 days on average, right? I'm sure you're familiar with that. And clients don't want to wait that long. So sometimes we'll get them a cash advance and bridge them over till they get the SBA. And then they pay off that cash advance with the SBA money.
People like SBA loans are the people that have never had an SBA loan, because there's lots of pitfalls, as you know, Joe, in an SBA loan that people never realize until they're in it.
Oh, and they're so strict on their underwriting, the credit, the collateral. I mean, you're signing your life away.
Yeah, the collateral, and it is not to your advantage. Trust me, if you're working with the government and you're dealing with money, it will not be to your advantage. They're a parasite. Government is a parasite, and you're the host. They're feeding off of you, not the other way around.
What's funny is, like, because you're a business owner too, and there's a program floating around right now called the Employee Retention Credit, right?
Yeah.
And it's free money, never has to be paid back, up to $26,500 per W-2 employee. Well, people are eating this up. I get messages on LinkedIn. Hey, can you send me some information on this? And yeah, we get them in, and they get pre-qualified for 50 grand, and they're jacked.
Yeah.
But there's always a consequence on the other side.
Yeah. You do not want to be in business with the government. No. I'm just telling you. I mean, unless, you got some big government contract that they're paying you, you're supplying them something that they need or whatever, but normally you're going to have some friends in the government to get that. I'll give you an example. A neighbor of mine up in South Dakota, he owned the Budweiser distributorship in Los Angeles. And now, is it a coincidence that he ran the 1972 Republican convention? The next year, he was awarded by lottery the Budweiser distributorship. Now, maybe it's a coincidence.
Maybe.
Or maybe it's not, which I'm going to go with it's not. Now, by the way, he sold that for $200 million. So politics does pay well. That's all I would say.
For sure.
All right. So who else could use your system? I mean, tell me some of the other kind of businesses that people might be in the audience.
Any, healthcare companies, doctors. I mean, basically any industry, except, we won't touch casinos, anything to do with gambling, adult entertainment. That's just out of the equation. But yeah, even cannabis now we have programs for. So,
which is tougher than at banks, right? I mean, banks don't really want cannabis business.
Yeah. And so my ideal client is under, 2 years time in business. They're doing at least 20K a month in revenue. And you got to have at least a 500 FICO score.
What about this? What about crypto mining companies and crypto companies?
We haven't really got anything for that yet.
Yeah, we're behind the cannabis people. So cannabis is being adopted. Crypto is still no bank in the world.
That's coming down the pipeline for sure.
It's coming, but right now we have to deal with individuals and see, typically what we do now is, if an individual wants to partner with us in a crypto project, we're giving them a piece of the company. So would you rather have a short-term loan when it's available, get this thing up and running, pay it back, be done, and then you own 100%, or bring somebody in that's going to own part of your business?
Right.
I'd rather go with the former when it's available.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as crypto mining goes, there's equipment financing available for that.
Okay.
As far as working capital, it's iffy.
Okay, I'm gonna have one of my guys contact you. Even if we can't do anything, we might as well go down that rabbit hole and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we have lots of opportunities. It's just bringing them all together. So tell me how you started with infinite banking and how your background in understanding loaning money, how that helped you understand, because you got infinite banking a lot faster than most people do.
Well, it's fascinating. With doing what I do, I basically got an education in finance without paying $60,000 a year. So
right. Yeah.
Obviously, when you start out, there's a huge learning curve, which, I learned the hard way, just like most people do. But you figure it out along the way, and you're like, wow, that makes sense to me now. But as far as infinite banking goes, I was searching for, I think, business acquisition podcasts, and I heard you on one of them.
Yeah.
And I started researching you, and next thing you know, create Tailwind, and I got involved in the community, connected with Nick, and started really digging into Nelson's material. And I was just like, wow, I was just floored by it. I'm like, it kind of opened my mind up to a whole new realm. And like, I got to get in this. Like, I was sold the minute I read that book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I didn't need to be sold on a policy. I'm like, this just makes perfect sense. And, you know, I'm
Yeah.
trying to talk my family into doing it too. And it's more of a tougher sell.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because they lack the understanding and they've been told the noise, and that's normal. You know, I would guess your parents are somewhere in my age, and we were told that how this 401k was the greatest thing in the world, how you got to save for, you know, because we were getting rid of pensions. We're kind of like shoved in between guaranteed pensions because you work for the company for your whole life. And then now that the younger generation understands cash flowing assets, being in business for yourself, from like you said, and we were shoved in there. We were sold on this do it yourself retirement, and we got the worst on both sides. But thank goodness some of us don't believe that anymore and broke away from that. But I always like when people really get it first. I didn't get it the first time I read the book, so you were ahead of me.
Yeah, it's because my dad's 62 years old, and he's just so fed up with having his money with a financial planner and basically a money manager, and seeing his portfolio not go anywhere for years, right? If anything, he's lost after fees. So and he's been motivation for me, like since I was a younger kid. I see my parents working these jobs and just didn't seem lit up. They didn't seem like, so I'm like, I started questioning them, like, I got to break away at some point. I was working all these jobs. I was frustrated. I didn't feel like my authentic self. It wasn't until I went off on my own, I started really like catching my drift.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to talk the way I want to talk, dress the way I want to dress, and then learn how I want to learn. And I always felt like as long as I was employed, it wasn't going to be that way.
Right. Well, I mean, I love that you have that attitude, and I'm glad that you found the right mentor and the guide to help you learn the business and get in, and now you're taking off and growing on your own. That's really, it's fun. It's exciting. Love that you're from Rochester. I'm telling you, I got 10 friends from Rochester.
You're going to have to play some golf up there if you haven't.
I have. I played at Monroe Country Club.
Yeah.
Are you familiar? So the first time I played there,
I caddied for my dad there. He was an LPGA Pro-Am and caddied for him at Monroe.
Really?
Yeah.
So my first round at Monroe was me and Rich Spencer versus Paul Swistek and Jim Odorsic, and I shot 77 or 76. I love that course. It set up perfect for me. Never played it, and we won a little money that day. So love that whole setting. The next one we're playing is I'm going up there again. We play up at Cuca Lake, this little course called Lakeside.
Okay.
And it's just like up this hill and then down the hill, and there's nobody on the course. It's pretty sweet. But what's the other big time course there? They have Oak something.
You got Oak Hill, you got Locust Hill.
Oak Hill, yeah.
Ravenwood. Yeah.
So I think we're gonna play Oak Hill this time. I just got back, not to turn this into a golf discussion, but I just got back from 4 days at Valhalla in Louisville.
Come on, really?
Those guys do it right, man. They're great. So, we could probably talk about business and infinite banking for a long time, but I'm going to ask you a question I ask everybody that comes on is if God came down from heaven and said, Joe, you can only retain the book that, or the knowledge that you received from one book that you've read in your life, outside of it being the Bible, what book would that be?
I would say The Secret, Rhonda Byrne.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in manifesting, and it's worked in my life, many times. And it's just like miracles happen. I see them. I'm like, wait, I saw that 3 years ago happening. And here we are. So The Secret really started programming my mind probably when I was about 23 years old.
Yeah.
I discovered it. took me a few years to really, really implement, but yeah, it's just now I look back and I'm like, wow, that's where it all started in that book.
Yeah, I love that book. It's funny. I was just talking Kim Daly, who's one of our clients and great friends here, and does a lot of content for helps people with franchises, which we should hook the two of you guys up, because maybe there's opportunities for people that are getting into franchises to use your service too. I don't know, but anyway, she always talks about manifestation. But one of the things that I always do that I take from The Secret is every time I'm in a parking lot, I just know that I'm going to get a great parking spot. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying it's 100%,
Front row, right?
It's about 80%. Somebody will be backing up right in the perfect spot, and I'll go, worked again, and I always think like that. I always think, I was sure I was going to win the $400 million a couple of weeks ago for Powerball, because I never play Powerball. So I'm like, but I'm going to just manifest it. I'm just going to win, right? I didn't win, but
you visualized.
Yeah, I visualized it, and it's the same reason that I don't have my money clip on me, but I have a $1 billion check in my money clip, right?
And I'm sure that's what makes you a good golfer too, because it's a visualization game.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the funny thing. Harvey Penick wrote a great book about golf called it's like his little red book of golf or something like that. But he says you have to take dead aim, right? So when you play golf, if you say if you aim wide, you're going to miss wide. If you take really dead aim, you're going to hit the ball close to that aim. And so sometimes people, they think, well, I just want to hit the fairway. No. I look at the fairway and I say, I want to be on the right side of the fairway. And then I look at something higher in the sky or like in the tree line, and I say, I want to be by that tree, the left side of that tree. Now, so when I focus it down, my miss is only going to be in here, and I might end up in the middle of the fairway instead of the right side of the fairway, which I can live with. So you're exactly right. You have to do that, but you have to do that in life too.
That's every day,
Yeah.
When I wake up, I go right on my balcony, look out at the sky, the beautiful Arizona sky, and I start visualizing just for 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah. And you bring up another great thing, Joe, is visualizing, meditating, just staying quiet for 5 or 10 minutes a day, 2 or 3 or 4 times a day. The thoughts that can't get in your mind because you're busy, they get in there then. And when those thoughts get in there, they create anchors in your mind, and they will make it happen. Like if you look out over the sky and you say, I'm going to build a house on, there's this great house. I'm sure it's still there on, is it Saddleback Rock or Saddleback Mountain or something?
Yeah, there's a Camelback.
That's what I'm trying to think. Camelback. There's this house that this dentist built that was just like amazing, right? And like if you said, I'm going to buy that house, you're either going to, if you focus on that, you're going to get that house or something better, is the way I always look at it.
Sometimes I hear Nelson's voice in my head because I'm curious about a lot of things, and I'll start going down rabbit holes, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll just hear Nelson because I watched some videos of him too. He'll just be saying it's all noise.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I've seen Nelson live so many times, and on the they sold, okay, and I guess we can go ahead and let this cat out of the bag, but they sold DVDs on the infinitebanking.org. And I said to David, nobody has a DVD player, so you're selling DVDs. And he charges for 10 hours of Nelson $200, right, for the DVDs.
What a steal.
So he digitized them and he's putting them on his website. So I said, no. I want it on our community. I want to be able to offer this to our community. So in the next 2 weeks, I don't know exactly when, maybe hopefully this week coming up, we're going to have for sale on the community Nelson's seminar that he used to do live. 10 hours, almost 10 hours. It was 10 hours when it was live, but it's almost 10 hours recorded for $200. And so I love that you say that, because I told David, people are going to buy this like popcorn because it's the best $200 you could ever pay.
Oh,
if you watch Nelson for 10 hours, I promise you will be better at this, and you will understand this better than most people that teach it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and
it's a pleasure,
it's been a lot of fun.